Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 41 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, very good. Now, of course, we're going to dive straight into part one, as we usually do. We're going to start with the review part. As we said last week, there really wasn't too much to review at all. To be honest, it's only one fight. It took place in Russia on Monday. This was Monday, the 11th of July. Sergey Kovalev defending his WBA, IBF and WBO World Light Heavyweight titles. Isaac Chilemba in the other corner. Kovalev going into this fight with a record of 29-0 with the one draw. Isaac Chilemba 24-3 with two draws. Me and you, Ayaz, I know we did a little prediction on this. I know we both went with a knockout win. I think I went for round 3. I think you went round 5. I think we overlooked the fact that Chilemba had never been stopped in his pro career. And basically he wasn't stopped on the night either. So he was down in round 7, Chilemba. But Kovalev, I don't know, he just seemed like he didn't really seem himself, but then we know how awkward Chilemba is. He's very hard to hit clean. But the shots that did land on Chilemba, he took them pretty well, apart from that one in the 7th round where he really did get clocked with a big bang. But Kovalev didn't really impress me like he normally does. I know that you probably share that opinion, Ayaz, but a lot of people saying that maybe he's got his eye on the Ward fight and he kind of overlooked Chilemba. Of course, they selected this opponent to fight in Russia. It was a homecoming for Kovalev. He hadn't fought in Russia for 5 years, so I thought they would have chose someone that they were going to be able to get a spectacular knockout win over, just purely to put on a bit of a show for the Russian fans, but it didn't turn out that way. Also, I've heard that Kovalev was a little bit ill in the build-up to the fight during training camp. Ayaz, firstly, what do you think about the performance from Kovalev there on Monday night?
To be honest, I wasn't really impressed by Kovalev with his performance. Obviously, he knocked Chilemba down in the 7th round with that beautiful right hand. But the thing is, in my opinion, I reckon obviously there was one reason that he was ill. The second reason, they were saying that apparently he was hunting with Kovalev in Russia, and obviously he thought, yeah, this is going to be like a walk in the park, yeah, or knock Chilemba out and then get ready for the big fight in November, which is against Ward. Now, obviously, he didn't perform at that standard, and now before the fight, a lot of people were going for Kovalev was a big favorite to go into the fight against Wood. Now, after this performance, Ward's like a more of a favorite now.
Yeah, I think not so sure that he was a big favourite over Ward. I think it was pretty much even, but yeah, you know, Andre Ward and a lot of Andre Ward's fans will be licking their lips over that. So, yeah, it wasn't overly impressive from Kovalev, but nonetheless, he marches on to his 30th career win professionally. He's also got that one draw, and he, of course, defends his WBA, IBF and WBO World Light Heavyweight titles. But that's it for the reviewing part. It's got to be the shortest one we've ever done, I believe. So, Ayaz, I'm going to ask you now to bring us in the weekly news just before we get on to the most craziest names of this week.
Gennady Golovkin will be fighting Kell Brook on September 10th.
Oh, Jesus. I know that this one's over in the O2 Arena. No one saw this coming, Ayaz. A lot of people, on WhatsApp, I'm actually in like a bit of a boxing debate group. We're all kind of talking about this fight. There's about 15, 16 of us in there. We're all debating about it. And I tell you what, a lot of people are kind of shocked how this fight just came up. But I'm reminding people that, do you remember before there was, apparently, according to Eddie Hearn, there was a few phone calls between Eddie Hearn and Tom Loeffler, the guy who represents Triple G. So this was before when the Khan Canelo fight was just announced. I remember that Kell Brook said, oh, go and get me Golovkin. a lot of people weren't too sure if it was genuine, but they had some sort of talks, and it seems like they may have picked up where they left off. And they've apparently, again, they've offered him the same money to fight Brook as they were going to offer him to fight Chris Eubank Jr. But this is a real strange one, because Chris Eubank Jr. now left in the dark. What does he do? Because he was just about to fight, pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world in Gennady Golovkin. Now he's left with his British title. Is he now going to fight someone British level? Because I really don't want to see that. It's going to be very disappointing, to be honest, to see him fight anyone, unless it's Billy Joe Saunders in a rematch, or probably Danny Jacobs. I can't see him taking either of those fights, to be honest, especially now that he's with Eddie Hearn promotionally. So I can't see him doing a deal with Frank Warren to fight Billy Joe Saunders in the next few fights or anything. But what do you think is next for Chris Eubank Jr., Ayaz? Do you reckon he's going to drop back down to British level yet again?
I was reading an interview on Glenn McCurry, I think it was, yeah. And he said, Martin Murray lost to George Grudge in his last fight. And he thinks that Martin Murray should stick to boxing and move back down to middleweight. And if Chris Eubank Jr.'s fight don't happen with Golovkin, which he previously said that a couple of weeks ago, that Chris Eubank Jr. and Martin Murray would be a good British level fight.
It'd be a good fight, that I think so, yeah. But the only thing is, he has just had a fight with George Groves, and of course, he's going to take him a while to get back in shape and also get back down. So I don't think he'll be available for Chris Eubank Jr.'s next fight or anything like that. But I just, to be totally honest, even though that is a good fight between Martin Murray and Chris Eubank Jr., both guys are definitely higher up than British level for sure. So, there's not too much money in that fight at British level, but we'll wait and see what happens anyway. But the only thing I can say at the moment is, again, I'm very speechless with this fight, Kell Brook against Golovkin. Me, personally, I think that it's going to be, in terms of size, both guys are not going to be there's not going to be as much of a margin as people think in this fight. I really think that both guys are not going to be too far away from each other in terms of, the weight and stuff like that. I really don't think it's going to be like Amir Khan and Canelo. Amir Khan was in that fight at, they say, around 155, 156. And Canelo, they're saying, was in there at about 180, 190. So, I think there's not going to be that weight issue here, but let's have it right. A lot of people say that Brook has a puncher's chance in this fight. Well, Kell Brook, who I'm a huge, huge fan of, and I know that you are as well, Ayaz, he's not the biggest of punchers at 147. Let's be honest. I know a lot of people say, oh, he's a big puncher at 147, but he's not, is he? He doesn't knock out everyone he faces. All right, he's knocked out Jojo Dan and Gavin and Bizier as well, fair enough. But he's not actually a huge knockout artist, is he? He's knocked a fair few out. But if he goes up 2 weight classes, how is he going to hang with Golovkin? Golovkin has fought a good few punchers at middleweight, most notably probably David Lemieux. He can crack, he can knock people out. He didn't trouble Golovkin whatsoever. So someone coming up from welterweight in Kell Brook, I really don't think he's going to be able to trouble Golovkin with his power. Technically, he's of course a very sound boxer, Brook. His all-round game is really good. Maybe even a little bit better than Golovkin's. I think Brook's defense and the way he keeps himself compact and tight is better than Golovkin. But Golovkin, he's got such a dominating offense that I just think he'll bust through anything Brook gives him. And he's just crazy, isn't he? Golovkin's got the punch variety. He's just got everything. He's got the power. He can hit you anywhere and knock you out. And he will hit you in weird places. That punch that, can't remember who he landed on now. I think it was the Argentinian guy. And, that one that he threw like an overhand hook in the top of the guy's head and knocked him down. He's just a complete animal, Golovkin. So it is going to be a good fight. But do you give Brook any chance in this fight, Ayaz?
I'll tell you one thing, yeah. Brook is a good technical boxer. So if he's all he has to do is just jab and move. He has to jab and move around the ring, yeah. Box and move him, because with Golovkin, he's got so much power. So if Golovkin catches Brook, Brook's all over.
Yeah, it will be all over. But yeah, you're right there. He's got to definitely stick on that jab. But then again, Golovkin, when he uses his jab, he's got a really good jab too. I'm not sure who's got the reach advantage. I think they're not too much in the height. I've even heard Brook might be a bit taller. I don't know if that's silly. I should really probably check that before I go and say it. But it'll be interesting anyway. But Brook has got to use his speed here, because I don't think Golovkin is particularly very fast. But I think if Brook gets inside, lands a few punches and gets out, if he sort of sticks to that, I think he'll have a bit of success. But how long for is the big question. But yeah, we're going to leave that piece of news there, because I can talk about that all day, and I'm sure that we will talk a lot more about it come September the 10th. So the next piece of news for us, Ayaz, please.
Lee Haskins will defend his IBF World Bantamweight title against former champion Stuart Hall on the undercard of Kell Brook and Gennady Golovkin.
Yeah, this is another good fight. This really is. Of course, Lee Haskins, the IBF champ, and Stewie Hall, they both had a fight before, and Lee Haskins won that fight. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Of course, in that time, Stuart Hall went on to win a world title before Lee Haskins. It was quite strange. We had Lee Haskins on the show just before his last defense of his title, and his first defense of his title, actually. So yeah, no, it was. That's going to be a good fight, that fight, and Stuart Hall's really going to throw everything at it. But I think that Lee Haskins, if he sticks to his job, he can probably be victorious on the night. Any more news for us, Ayaz?
Charlie Edwards will challenge John Real Casimiro for the IBF World Flyweight title on that same night.
Yes, another good fight for the undercard. My good mate Charlie Edwards gets a world title shot. Do you know what? He kept it under wraps. I woke up on Monday and that was it. I woke up out of bed. I had an email, looked on my emails, bang. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was still dreaming. And, straight away I sent him a message and, he's over the moon for this fight. And we'll get him on the show next week. He's actually fighting this weekend. We'll talk about his fight in the preview part of the show, but he's actually fighting this weekend on Sky Sports. So everybody watch that, because it's his last fight before his world title challenge. Of course, his opponent, the champion. It's not like it's a vacant title or anything like that. And his opponent also pulled a big upset last fight. So it's going to be a good fight for Charlie Edwards. And of course, Charlie Edwards, this is going to be his 9th professional fight. So from what I've heard, it's actually, if he wins this fight, he'll be the second quickest Brit. Out of all the British people that have won world titles, he's going to do it the second quickest with 9 fights. I'm not sure who done it before that. I think it might have been someone maybe got it in 7 fights, but it's amazing for him. And as a friend of mine, I'm absolutely over the moon for him. Any more news for us, Ayaz?
Dillian Whyte will face heavyweight David Allen on July 30th.
Yeah, that's a really good card. Dave Allen, actually, I think he made points that he wasn't going to take that fight because he didn't have enough time, but then he's gone and took it. So I don't know if the money's got to his head or something. I really, really hope I'm wrong there. But it's going to be, it's a good fight for him anyway. And it'd be amazing if he comes and puts in a good performance and even perhaps beats Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte looked like he was in a lot better shape last fight. But as I said, it was a bit of a bore fest. So Dillian Whyte now, he's fought a couple times now. Like it's going to be, within the space of about 35 days, he's going to have had 2 fights. So will that take its toll on the fight night? We'll have to wait and see. But all the best to both guys there. Is there any more news, Ayaz?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Now it brings us to that other segment in this show that we've adopted recently where we talk about the most strangest names. So last week, the most strangest name was a guy called Aram Amirkhanian. Now, we said about this because his name actually says Amir Khan in his last name. And he was going into his fight against Alexei Kulikov, who had a record of 3 wins, 7 losses and 2 draws. It was a super welterweight bout over 8 rounds. I'm pleased to say that Amirkhanian won the fight unanimously after 8 rounds, and he cruises to 5-0. As I said, he's actually supposed to be a good fighter, so it'd be interesting if Amirkhanian actually ends up a big name in the future, because you can tell everybody where you heard his name, because I know that no one heard his name. Well, no one heard his full name. They only heard the Amir Khan bit. before the BoxHard Podcast talked about it. And also the fighter from this week to look out for, and we're going to be talking about their fights. There's a lot of crazy names. I've got to say so, Ayaz, to be honest. There is a lot of crazy names that I stumbled across this week. The first one I'm going to give to you, because I'm going to read them all out, Ayaz, and whatever one you pick, that's going to be the craziest name. So there's a guy fighting over in Japan. His name is Spice Matsushita. Okay. There's another guy fighting in Argentina. His name is German Argentino Benitez. Okay. He's 16-0. And the other one, Ayaz, especially if you're a big football fan or even more importantly, a big Manchester United fan, there's actually a fighter called Matteo Darmian, who, of course, is a defender, an Italian defender that plays for Man United. So his name is Matteo Darmian Veron. So people that know their football will remember another Manchester United player called Juan Sebastian Veron, an Argentinian player. So he's actually got two Manchester United names in his name there. So, Ayaz, I'm going to leave it down to you. Are you going with Matteo Darmian Veron, the guy who basically is two guys who used to play for Manchester United? Are you going with German Argentino Benitez, or are you going with Spice Matsushita?
What's his name? The Juan Sebastian.
Yeah, no, his name is Matteo Darmian Veron.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go for that guy.
Okay, you're going to go for that guy. Now, that guy probably has the most horrific record out the lot, which makes it even funnier. And his record is 24 wins. He's got a winning record, 24 wins with 7 knockouts and 17 losses with 3 draws. That's quite incredible, to be honest. And he's fighting this weekend against Stefan Hartel. Stefan Hartel, 10-0. So he's a bit of a German prospect, and that's happening at the Max Schmeling Hall over in Berlin. And that's actually the same card that Charlie Edwards will be fighting on this week, as I just mentioned before. But again, we're going to preview that card in the preview side of the show. So, Ayaz, you've done the news. I've done the funny name segment. We've done the reviewing. I think it's now time to welcome our first guest. And of course, our first guest on this week's show is fighting on the weekend in a big fight. It's a bit of a grudge match. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Gary Corcoran. Gary, welcome to the show.
I'm very good, Matt. How you doing?
Yeah, no, very good, very good. Okay, first things first, Gary. You're only a few days out now from undoubtedly the toughest fight of your career thus far. How are you feeling this close to the fight, and what will you be getting up to in the few remaining days before fight night?
I'll be just chilling out, just more relaxing, because I had a hard 8-week camp. And just mostly just relaxing the last week, just chilling out, watching my weight, and just make sure I'm nice and relaxed for the fight.
And how are you feeling now? Of course, we're only a few days away now. How do you feel, from the inside sort of thing?
I feel brilliant. I'm ready to go. If it was today, I'd fight him today, to be honest. But, I'm feeling brilliant. Ready to go. Can't wait for it.
Brilliant stuff. Now, a lot of people that I've spoke to about this fight, a lot of people give Liam Williams the favourite sort of thing, the favourite spot. Do you feel that you're being overlooked in this fight at all, Gary?
Yeah, I really do think I'm being overlooked in this fight, because I've beat a lot of good fighters that Liam hasn't fought as good as fighters as me, as I think he hasn't. And it shows on our records he hasn't fought as good as people as I fought. But I like that they're overlooking me. I'm improving every time in the gym. Every fight I've fought, I've improved more and more under my new trainer. And I can't wait for it.
Now, I know that there's a little bit of bad blood between you guys. It all got a little bit heated at the head-to-head. Where did all that stem from, Gary? Because I wasn't aware of anything, and then suddenly, it all kicked off.
Yeah, it was quite a while back. It weren't only the last. It started quite a few months ago, but then it just led on from him calling me out on TV, and it just led out from there.
So do you see this yourself? Do you see this as a bit of a grudge match? And if so, does it spur you on a little bit more than usual because of that factor?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is a grudge match, and it spurs me on more to even beat him up. And Yeah, it's going to make me. It's going to bring the best out of me. Definitely, 100% of it.
Brilliant stuff. Now, of course, you've beaten 2 undefeated fighters in your last 3 fights. How confident are you that you'll be able to take another man's O come Saturday? Not only that, but also Liam Williams hasn't fought anyone that's unbeaten since turning pro. How much does your O mean to you? And do you think every fighter that's trying to keep hold of their O, do you reckon that makes them a little added bit more dangerous? I know I've asked you about 4 questions in one there.
Yeah, of course, yeah, it does, yeah, 100% it makes it equal, because I don't want my old to go hurt this one more time anyway, you know what I mean? I don't want to lose them all, so I don't want to lose to Liam anyway, so yeah, it makes me fight harder for it. I want to fight if whoever wants to try to take my old, he's going to have to fight for it to make me lose it.
Yeah, of course. And as I say, you've beaten 2 undefeated fighters. How confident are you that you're going to make it 3 undefeated fighters in 4 fights?
Yeah, I'm very confident. Of beating, because he threw me in with 2 unbeaten fighters, and then he threw me in with a stiff opponent with Danny Butler. We fought a lot of good boys, and he's knocked his last 6 or 7 up before I fought him. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight, because I don't think he's fought anyone as good as me. He thinks somebody him and his trainer thinks somebody a one-weight fighter. So I can't wait to the night. I can't wait to that night to fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're both sort of fighting. You're both each other's best opponents to date, in my honest opinion. Of course, one of your has got to go, and of course, the best man will win on the night. But I think you're both kind of at that same level. I think it's a bit unfair for people that are just writing you off, sort of thing, because you have probably fought the better fighters, to be honest, looking at both your records on paper. And as you say, your last fight, it was a good fight. You learned a lot in that fight. Yeah,
I've learned a lot. I've fought first with Rick Goodens. I learned a lot off that fight. How I was fighting all the time. That's how I used to box. First fight, and then I fought Rich Skelter. I boxed a bit more, and then the third fight, I was so relaxed. I was so relaxed in that fight, and it was so I made it comfortable for myself. And if I do the same thing, even a bit smarter, a bit better, I think I can make this a comfortable fight for myself.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you about a couple of other fights that are happening, down the line. The first one I wanted to ask you about is took us all by absolute surprise this week. Kell Brook against Gennady Golovkin. What do you think about that fight?
Yeah, I think it's a hard. I'll be honest. Brook hits very hard. I sparred Brook. I was doing a lot of sparring for the Danny Butler fight with him. I've been doing it for the last 2 camps, and I was sparring with him a lot. And I've been in 8 rounds and that with him and that. So he's the heaviest handler I've been hit. I've been hit with some super middleweights and all that. And he hits hard in the super middleweights I've been sparring. So, and he's quite big as well. You know what I mean? He's naturally big. He's a big man. So I think it's going to be a good fight. I really do think it's a good fight. He won't let Kell Brook hit him. But if he lets him hit him, he'll hurt him. Brook will hurt him. Yeah,
vice versa, I think as well. It's it really is going to be a good fight. I mean, it's one of those fights. When Khan and Canelo got announced, it was like people didn't know. I think this is going to be a lot closer than that fight was, definitely, especially in terms of size. I don't think there's going to be much of a size difference on the night either.
Yeah, of course. Everyone's expecting Golovkin. Everyone's expecting him to beat him. Golovkin to beat him. But they'll have a big surprise. I think they'll have a big surprise. But I don't think there's much hiding that. I don't think there will be much hiding that. But it's going to be a brilliant fight. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, me neither. Bang. Yeah, hopefully we see Brook win that fight. Also, I wanted to ask you about a fight in your division, Canelo against Liam Smith. That's kind of took us all by surprise as well. It's been a lot of good fights made lately. What do you think about that fight, Gary?
Yeah, it's a good fight for Liam. I think it's a good fight for Liam Smith. He had to take a win. He could take it because it's a big fight in Las Vegas. With him, he has a world title, and he should fight whoever is like in that the top in that way. You know what I mean? It's good fight. There's some big fights out there for him. Like the next level, who's he looking at after that? He's looking at the likes of if Liam ever won that fight, he's looking at the fight. He maybe go up to middleweight and have a fight with the other guys, like the likes of like they're naming them on Box Nation, like Rob from Billy Joe and all them boys. Make a bit of money off it.
Yeah, again, I really wish him the best. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you before I let you go, Gary, of course, we've talked a lot about your fight here. I've asked you a lot of questions about it, but also on the card, you've got Jazza Dickens against Guillermo Rigondeaux. It's crazy to think that Rigondeaux is actually coming over to Britain to fight finally. How much will it mean to yourself? Of course, you're going over to Wales for your first fight in Wales, obviously, but just to be part of that whole card, because it's really turned into a seriously good card of boxing.
Yeah, that's gonna be a brilliant fight because he's won the pound for pound best, the Cuban, and I think it'll be very hard for Dixon because you might hit him once, but he doesn't get hit again. And he's unbelievable. He's an unbelievable fighter. I'd like to see Dixon beaten, but he's a big ass, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we all know that, but it would be great if he can. Okay, listen, Gary, I appreciate you giving us a bit of time this close to fight night, my friend, and I wish you the utmost best luck in this fight, and hopefully we'll speak to you again down the line, and you still keep your O that I know that you desperately want to keep. Yeah,
cheers, mate. Nice one. I will be keeping that O.
Excellent stuff. All right, Gary. Speak soon.
No problem, man. Okay, no problem, mate. Cheers.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show, the preview part. There's quite a bit to preview, and it feels good again because there's been not much on the last couple of weeks, and we've just had to whiz through it. Well, we've done a lot of talking, to be honest, but now we're going to be talking boxing. So we're going to start over in Germany at the Max Schmeling Hall over in Berlin. Tyrone Zeuge is challenging for the WBA World Super Middleweight title. Tyrone Zeuge, 18-0. He faces the champion Giovanni De Carolis. Now, this is, he's viewed as one of the, probably the weakest champion at super middleweight. So Giovanni De Carolis, 24-6. Tyrone Zeuge, 18-0. Tyrone Zeuge is the favourite to win this fight. So it may be the end of Giovanni De Carolis's very small reign of champion, but all the best to him. Also on that bill, Arthur Abraham. It's good to see him back in action for what's going to be his 50th professional fight. He faces Tim Robin Lu Hyag. Now, Lu Hyag, 15-1. Arthur Abraham, 44-5. This is for the vacant WBO International Super Middleweight title. Arthur Abraham, we know he's obviously over the hill. He's past his best, but he's still a good fighter and he will beat a lot of those contenders. He really will. So Arthur Abraham, of course, he lost his title to Gilberto Ramirez, who we know is probably the best at super middle at the moment. So I want to see him get back in the picture, Arthur Abraham. I think he's definitely good enough to beat some of the other champions. And I'm excited to see him back in the ring, to be totally honest. It's quite a decent little card over there in Germany. And this one, I'm not sure how much of it's going to be shown on Sky Sports, but I hope they show a little bit of it. This card, of course, will be on Sky Sports on Saturday night. Also on that bill, we mentioned it in part 1, the crazy name fight. Stefan Hartel, 10-0, faces Matteo Damian Veron, 24-17-3. I'm not sure how many rounds it's scheduled for. It doesn't say, but we're going to definitely let you know of the result next week. And also on this card, my good friend Charlie Edwards, 7-0 at the moment. His opponent yet to be announced, but he's going to win this fight. He's going to be 8-0, and then he's going to be going into his 9th fight, which will be for the IBF World Flyweight title. So all the best to Charlie on the weekend. And we're going to have him on the show next week for sure. Also on the bill, Anthony Ogogo on this one as well. Of course, he's got that little affiliation or a big affiliation. I'm not really sure what's going on with the promotional side of Anthony Ogogo's career. I think he's with the Sauerland still. So I think this is a Sauerland show. So his record at the moment, Anthony Ogogo, 10-0. His opponent yet to be announced. That's it for Germany. We're now going to go over to a card that Frank Warren is having in India. Top of the bill, Vijender Singh, 6-0. He faces Kerry Hope. with a record of 23 wins and 7 losses. A lot more experience professionally for Kerry Hope here. 5 times the fights that Vijender Singh has had, and this is for the vacant WBO Asia Pacific Super Middleweight title. All the best to Vijender Singh, Ayaz. I know that you're very excited to see what he's going to turn out to be. And that's it for India. We're now going to go over to Tolworth Recreation Centre in London. A couple of fights I wanted to mention on this bill. Danny Cassius Connor, 15-9 with the 2 draws. He faces Daniel Bazzo, 3 wins, 8 losses and 2 draws. This is a 6-rounder in the super lightweight division. All the best to Danny Cassius Connor, a real good friend of Charlie Edwards, that actually. He's a nice boy, he is. And also undefeated heavyweight prospect Nick Webb. We had him on the show before, of course. He's in his 7th pro contest. He at the moment 6-0. He faces Thomas Mazek. Now, Thomas Mazurek, he's a bit of a journeyman, but he's a tough guy. His record, 10 wins, 55 losses and 6 draws. This is only a 4-rounder. Nick Webb, he's got a bit of a reputation for knocking him out early, and it'd be impressive if he gets an early stoppage over Mazurek. Mazurek's been in there with the likes of Tyson Fury, Eddie Chambers. I think even Hughie Fury might have fought him as well. I'm not too sure on that, actually. But, he's been around the block, and he's one of those guys to get the prospects in with. And if they can get him out of there, then it's a good win for them. That's it for that one. We're now going to go over to York Hall, Bethnal Green. Wadi Camacho, 15-5. He faces Danny Cousins, 7 wins, 9 losses and 2 draws. This is for the Southern Area Cruiserweight title. Also on that bill, Luke the Duke Watkins, 8-0 at the moment, going into his fight at Cruiserweight. Is a 6-rounder against Dmitry Kalinovsky. 9 wins, 22 losses and 2 draws. Of course, Luke the Duke Watkins looked after by Paddy Fitzpatrick. Also on that bill, another fighter looked after by Paddy Fitzpatrick, Sam Sniper Smith. He at the moment is 2-0. He looks to move to 3-0. He faces David Sipos, 6 wins and 7 losses. But that's it for York Hall. We're now going to go over to the Ice Arena in Wales, Cardiff. We spoke to him earlier on in the show, and I've got to say he was supremely confident. He didn't care about being the underdog. He didn't care about the fact he was being looked over. He actually liked it. And I've got to say, after speaking to him, I'm not too sure about this fight now. He seemed so confident. He just sounded like a man who wasn't going to be denied, in my opinion. But anyway, top of the bill, Liam Williams, 14-0 with the 1 draw, takes on Gary Corcoran, 15-0. So both guys had 15 fights. Both guys haven't lost. Somebody's always got to go. It's for the British and Commonwealth Super Welterweight titles, the 154 titles, and the winner will go on to a big fight, I'd imagine, here. So best of luck to both guys. May the best man win. Also on that bill, Terry Flanagan, the WBO World Lightweight Champion. He faces Monzunk Fana. I'm not sure if I've got the pronunciation right. Terry Flanagan, 30-0. Fana, 38-9. Fana, of course, former world champion himself. A lot of people criticising this fight. I know that Fana hasn't had a decent win for a few years. Terry Flanagan, I think he's just going to go in there and wipe the floor with him. That's the easiest and quickest way to put it, to be honest. But we hope that Terry Flanagan gets a big fight after this, because of course everybody's comparing him to Anthony Crolla, and Anthony Crolla back to back is fighting top opposition, and we need to see that from Terry Flanagan. Also on that bill, pound for pound, definitely in the top 2 or 3, Guillermo Rigondeaux, 16-0. He's defending his WBA World Super Bantamweight title against Jazza Dickens. Jazza Dickens, 22-1. That 1 loss coming to Kid Galahad. It's a huge fight, isn't it? It's brilliant that the main thing is it's brilliant to see Rigondeaux showcase his skills over in Britain. It really, really is. There were problems with his visa and he couldn't fight before when he was scheduled to fight. But this fight is definitely taking place. He's arrived here already, and he was at the open workout, I believe, earlier on in the week. And, he looks like he's in good form here. But Jazza Dickens, he really believes in himself, and so he should. We've had him on the show before, real nice guy. And it would be amazing if somehow he won this fight. But it's a huge, huge, huge ask. It may even be one of the biggest wins in a British ring, to be honest, if he was to be able to pull that one off. Also on the bill, Tommy Langford, 16-0. He faces Ronnie Gable, 21-5-1 for the WBO Intercontinental Middleweight title. Also on the bill, another good friend of mine, Bradley Skeet, 23-1. His one loss coming to Frankie Gavin. He puts his WBO European welterweight title on the line against Alexander Lapele. 19 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw. This is going to be a good fight for Bradley. I'm pleased that he was able to keep his European title, even though in his last fight it wasn't on the line. I thought he had to vacate it, but it seems like he didn't. So he's managed to keep that. And of course, he's coming off a brilliant performance over Sam Eggington. He looked unbelievable in that fight, and we're going to be speaking to him on next week's show as well, Bradley Skeet. So a little heads up, Bradley Skeet and Charlie Edwards will be on next week's show amongst 1 or 2 others. We might even get you 4 guests on next week's show. We'll have to wait and see. But this show here, to be honest, Ayaz, it's got a lot of guys that we've had on the show. It's got Gary Corcoran, we've had him on earlier, Jazza Dickens, Tommy Langford, Bradley Skeet, all those guys have been on our show. Also on this bill, Gary Buckland, 30 wins and 7 losses. He actually retired, but this is his, he's coming back to fight again, and he faces Matty Fagan, 8-1, 8 rounds in the lightweight division. Gary Buckland back in the ring, and we know that he comes to fight, and he's a good fighter, so it'd be interesting to have him back in the mix. I never thought he was actually going to retire. It just he seemed to go too quietly, but he's back now, and we're going to see what that little timeout has done. Also on the bill, Jamie Conlan, 16-0, arguably in one of the best fights in a few years, definitely in a British ring for sure. Jamie Conlan in his last fight against Anthony Nelson. What a fight that was. Jamie Conlan 16-0. Patrick Bartos 7-9. It's an 8-rounder in the super flyweight division. I know that Jamie Conlan's been doing a lot of work out in the MGM Marbella, and of course he's a good fighter. That's it for the UK. We're now going to go over to Birmingham over in Alabama. USA, top of the bill, Deontay Wilder, 36-0, puts his WBC World Heavyweight title on the line against Chris Arreola, 36-4 with the 1 draw. Ayaz, talk to me about this fight.
I reckon Deontay Wilder's going to knock him out. That's all I'm saying about that fight.
Yeah, you know what? I ain't really got too much more to add to that. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Deontay Wilder, he's in the prime of his life, really. His last few performances have been pretty good, apart from that one against Spilker, where I think Spilker actually exposed him a little bit until he got knocked out. I think he was winning that fight, or it was definitely pretty close. Chris Arreola, well over the hill. He's gonna, his last fight, it turned out to be a no contest because he got caught with drugs in his system. It turned out to be marijuana. He was smoking marijuana through camp. I just don't really know where I don't really know where his head is, to be honest, most of the time. He's a bit of a nutcase, but he turns up to fight for the first few rounds and then he gets absolutely gassed to high heavens. And yeah, we're going to see him probably get knocked out. What round are you going to go for then, Ayaz? If we do the predictions again, I know that neither of us could cash in on the Sergey Kovalev. None of us said it was going to be points. We both said knockout. So what are we going to go for here? What are you thinking about this Arreola-Wilder fight? What round do you want to pick for Wilder to stop him?
I want to go for round 5.
All right, I'm going to go for round 4. So if it's under 4 rounds, I've got it. If it's 5 rounds or over, then you've got it. And we'll definitely have a little look on that one. I think that Deontay Wilder stops him pretty easily. And I tell you what, if Chris Arreola comes and gives him a good fight, it really does give us some question marks for Deontay Wilder. But I don't think he'll be overlooking him. Also on that bill, really exciting welterweight prospect, Sammy Vasquez, 21-0 in a 10-rounder at welterweight, of course, against Felix Diaz, 17-1. This is actually going to be a real good fight. I think it's the best fight, the most evenly matched fight on the entire card. So I'm looking forward to that one. Also on that bill, Vic Darchinyan, 42-8 with the 1 draw. He faces Enrique Quevedo, 16 wins, 7 losses and 1 draw. It's a 10-rounder at super bantamweight. So it's got a few good fights on this bill, to be totally honest. You know, Vic Darcinian, good fighter. Also on that bill, and we're going to be speaking to him in a couple of moments, so I'm not going to talk too much about his fight. Gerald Washington, 17-0 with the 1 draw. He faces Ray Austin. Ray Austin, 29 wins, 7 losses and 4 draws. Ray Austin, age 45 now. He's still mixing it. To be honest, he hasn't had a good win in quite a while. I think it was 9 years ago now that he fought for the world titles against Vladimir Klitschko and lost that fight, of course. So he's in there against Gerald Washington, an upcoming and exciting prospect who just recently in his last fight got a win over my good friend Eddie Chambers. So it's going to be interesting, that fight, but I think Gerald Washington will probably knock him out. And Gerald Washington, as I say, a real nice gentleman himself. I really do wish him the absolute best. Real nice guy. But like I say, we'll be talking to him in about 2 minutes' time. So we're going to leave it up to him. Okay, that's it for Birmingham. We're now going to go over to California. Just one fight I want to mention over there. It's the last fight to mention of this part of the show. Andy Ruiz Jr., 27-0. He's in a 10-rounder at heavyweight against Josh Gormley, 22-4. Andy Ruiz Jr., man, he's going to probably win this fight and he's going to move to 28-0. And we just haven't seen him in there with anyone. Everybody, and I tell you who as well. You know, there's a lot of people that know a shed load about boxing that you wouldn't even believe it. And it was Isaac Chamberlain. I was talking to Isaac Chamberlain. He was saying, do you know what? Andy Ruiz Jr. is such a good boxer. You know, Andy Ruiz Jr., they barely show him on TV. How does Isaac Chamberlain know about it? Isaac Chamberlain, believe me, he studies the game. He knows his stuff, and he believes in Andy Ruiz Jr. Now, I just want to see him in there in a big fight. If Isaac is right, then, you know, he should beat some of these top guys, and it just seems like he's going to end up being 30-0 by the end of the year, and he just hasn't fought anyone. There's really, you know, he's really got to take a note out of someone like Joshua's book here and fight someone notable at least. Joshua picked up the world title in his 16th bout, and we really need to see something here from Andy Ruiz Jr. You know, I'm crying out for a step up here, and I can't wait because I really want to see if he really is what a lot of people think he is. But that's really it for the previewing on this week's show. There's one last thing to do before we end part 2 and finish the show, and it's, of course, to welcome our second guest. Okay, now it's time for our second guest on this week's show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated heavyweight prospect, Mr. Gerald Washington. Gerald, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you back on.
Very much. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Always my pleasure. Now, of course, you're fighting on Saturday, but before we get on to that, I just wanted to talk about the last time that you were out against Eddie Chambers. He was no doubt your toughest test on paper going into the fight. I stayed up to watch it. Did you learn anything valuable in that fight, Gerald?
Oh, definitely. I learned that I can, that I can let my hands go, and and I can. I was able to get my punch count up, and now, I was able to experiment. Now I'm able to experiment with mixing in a little more power. But it was a different type of fight compared to my previous fight before with Amir Mansour. I had Amir Mansour coming at me head first, and Eddie Chambers was real tactical behind his guard. He didn't open up too much. I saw that if I stayed busy, he'd stay in there, and that was my game plan the whole time. Just stay busy, keep him at the end of my jab, and just win on points, because he's not an easy guy to knock out because he doesn't really open up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, you're fighting on Saturday against former world heavyweight title challenger Ray Austin. This will be your second world title challenger in a row now. What are you expecting from Ray Austin come Saturday night, Gerald?
Oh, he's just a big boy, big guy, 6'6", 260-something pounds. I like fighting the big, tall guys, so it's going to be a good test for me to finally get in there with somebody that's big and strong, and just for me to be able to show my athleticism and show everything that I've learned to this point. Every time I step in the ring it's been a great experience for me, a great learning process, and I'm able to add a little more to my game every time. So I'm just looking forward to see what I'll be able to learn from this guy and be able to take it to my next fight, which will hopefully be a title shot sometime soon.
Yeah, I hope so. It's another good name for your record. Now, of course, you're fighting on the undercard of Wilder versus Areola. How do you see that fight playing out, Gerald? Because in my personal opinion, I'm not too impressed with this fight. I don't think that Areola's really good enough to mix it with Wilder. But what do you think about it? Of course, you're on that whole card.
Yeah, we're a lot of people are Areola fans just because he brings his whole heart. He he fights very hard. He'll fight to the end, and he'll lay it all on the line. And but yeah, he's gonna have a hard time getting in on Wilder. He's not, he's gonna be eating a lot of the leather, taking a lot of punches, and it's just gonna be very difficult for him. Somebody that in order to beat Wilder, you got to be, about the same size, have that athleticism to go with it. Have a good game plan. He can handle the pressure pretty good. That's why I think he was going to be able to beat Povetkin pretty easily. He was able to beat Stavern like that and all the pressure fighters because he knows how to keep his range and he knows how to let his hands go.
Yeah, one thing that is guaranteed is Areola always comes to give it a go for the first 1, 2, 3 rounds. Definitely, he goes into the fight swinging, and if Deontay Wilder can be smart and keep it long in those early rounds, especially, he's got to use his ring smarts to stay away from Areola. And a lot of people, of course, they criticise Wilder for his ring smarts, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But of course, since we last spoke, Gerald, we spoke to you 20 weeks ago this week. We spoke to you on show number 21. This is show number 41. Since we last spoke, Anthony Joshua defeated the undefeated American Charles Martin and took his IBF world title. He also beat Dominic Brazil. I know that you count both of those guys as friends of yourself. What do you make of their two performances and also Anthony Joshua's two performances?
I think, to give Anthony Joshua all the credit in the world, he's been doing his thing. He stepped into the challenges and he took the guys out. As far as their performances go, hey, Charles Martin didn't get out the blocks. He didn't get to show too much at all. Anthony Joshua got on him quick, and Dominic Brazil, man, he couldn't create any offense. Anthony Joshua was able to stay away and land all his punches, man, and land some powerful shots and was able to get him out of there. So, but I look forward to stepping in the ring with Anthony Joshua because I felt I have the perfect style for him. So you guys let him know, man. I'm coming for him.
Yeah, I'll definitely be sure to let him know.
I'm coming for him, man, and I'm getting better and better every time I step in the ring, and I'm just looking forward to a matchup like that. He said he's looking for another American to step in the ring with him for his next fight. Why not me?
Yeah, absolutely. You are getting better every fight. Now, a fight that's happened this week, I'm not sure if you pay too much attention to some of the lower weight divisions, but a fight that's definitely shocked everyone over this side of the water is Golovkin against Kell Brook. I think it's a bit of a crazy one. It just took everyone by surprise. I mean, this fight's it's a while away, this fight from happening, but how do you see that one playing out? And do you give Kell Brook credit for jumping up 2 weight categories to take on the monster what is Golovkin?
I love it, man. I love it. We're big Kell Brook fans here in our gym, man. He's a solid fighter, strong, athletic guy that can, when he beat Sean Porter, that was a very impressive win for us. He was able to keep handle the pressure and just outbox him pretty good. So we look forward to that. We all love Golovkin also, but we all know that he gets hit. Let's see if this guy, somebody with class and style, can outsmart this guy and touch him up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Now, finally, Gerald, my last question for you. I asked you earlier what you expect from Ray Austin come Saturday night. I just wanted to ask you what should we expect from yourself on Saturday night?
I guess I just discovered how big and strong I was. I've been boxing off my back leg, and I've been hearing complaint after complaint. People always talking about, this guy's so big and strong. He looks like Hercules. Why is he boxing on his back leg? Why is he not taking any chances? I hear all this stuff, but people don't give me any credit for only having 14 amateur fights and stepping in the ring with these top competitors around the world. I'm like, I'm learning on the job, and people don't seem to understand that they expect me to be Lennox Lewis already, and I'm, but I just take it as it is, I just take it and work hard, and I'm getting better, and I'm ready. But I know I built my style on the defensive platform, so I'm a very defensive fighter. But now I'm starting to add my offense. Now I'm starting to be a little more aggressive. Now I'm starting to take chances of letting my hands go. I'm committing a little more, and I'm seeing the difference in the gym, and I just look forward to doing that in the fight.
Now, of course, we saw you out on the 30th of April. We're seeing you out now on the 16th of July. How many more times do you reckon you'll fight this year, ideally, for yourself, Gerald?
I don't know. I like staying busy. I like to fight every 2 to 3 months if possible. I had a couple long layoffs in between, but those are good layoffs for me. After the Mir Mansour fight, I had to fight one right there. It was right there in my hands. It was just a matter of me drawing the line in the dirt and just taking charge of the fight. I didn't do that, but I had to experience that because I never saw that before. I didn't see that in my training. I didn't see that in sparring before. I needed a man like that in front of me that was willing to do that and to push me like that. And and I'm grateful for that lesson that I learned from him. So now I'm able to add that to my thing, and I won't let anybody else ever do that to me ever again. And it's just I like staying busy. I like staying busy. We're on a path to be world champions. And just trying to put ourselves in position.
Yeah, now that fight that you just mentioned there, actually, the Amir Mansour fight, of course, he came there on the night to fight, but that's a fight that, in my personal opinion, I thought you should have won. I know it went down as a draw, but I think it was definitely one that you should have won, to be totally honest, on the night.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that if you look at the fight, if you actually sit there and look at the fight, you could count the punches that he landed on me. It wasn't. I don't know if he hit me in the face. He didn't land any punches of significance in the head, any head shots. He landed a couple of body shots. He landed that low blow, which really did it changed the pace of the fight. Because I was in total control at that point. I was getting ready to take over, and he hit me with the low blow right as I heard him with the uppercut, and I knocked him back. And it was just like that's all stuff that I have to take in I have to take in and process. But I'm ready for another. I was ready. I was so ready for the rematch. I was like, oh, I can't wait. My mouth. I had the taste for it in my mouth, and I was ready to rock. I was gonna show everybody that the changes that I made, and what better guy than the guy that I've already been in the ring with that people are criticizing me about. I want to show them the differences that I made.
Absolutely, Gerald. Now, listen, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. A true gentleman. I, for one, actually wish that it was you against Wilder this weekend rather than Ariola. I think you would definitely put up a better fight than he will have, but we'll have to wait and see on the night. Listen, once again, like I say, thanks for giving us a bit of time this close to your fight, my brother, and we'll speak again in the future.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys soon. Please, I'm a big fan of Anthony Joshua, and I just you just let him know, man. Let him know for me, man, that I can't wait to do that, man. And he has more power than I have as far as calling the shots right now. So if you guys could make that happen for me, man, I'd appreciate it.
Excellent. I'll pass on the message.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Okay, now it's time to conclude episode 41 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'd like to thank the two guests that come on this week's show. Big Gerald Washington, real nice gentleman. And we've got to pass on his message to Anthony Joshua. We have to. He reminded us about 5 times during the call. And also a big thank you to Gary Corcoran and the best of luck for Saturday night to both guys, to be honest. I'd like to thank Ayaz Sumra, of course, always on this week's show. Every single week he's on the show and he gives us the best news in the boxing world. I'd like to thank the listeners for making this show exactly what it is. We'll be back next week with another big show. As always, I've already said about the two guests that's coming on, Charlie Edwards and Bradley Skeet. Hopefully we get another one or two. We'll throw them in the mix as well. So from myself and Ayaz, take good care and we'll see you next week.